It's a celebration of freedom. Young people standing up to modern-day slavery. In London, they held a freedom concert. In Kingston, they hosted a poetry slam. And here in Atlanta, they planted a garden of hope. Welcome to CNN's special coverage of My Freedom Day. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Zain Asher. My Freedom Day, it's one way we can stop the barbarity of modern-day slavery by taking a stand against forced labor and child trafficking. We can offer a brighter future to the most vulnerable people. Thousands of students have come together to scrub out the stains of this evil. Kids all over the world are taking action in the most creative of ways. They're also raising their voices to tell us what freedom means to them.
My Freedom Day, Mexico! My Freedom Day, Hong Kong! We're here to celebrate My Freedom Day!
To me, freedom is when every child, irrespective of gender, has access to quality education and safe life.
Freedom to us is free education for all students around the world.
Freedom Day means a lot to me, as it means that I matter and other people matter too to the world.
Fellow Rosary High School students and their march to end modern-day slavery.
Freedom to me means everyone can choose what they want to do.
We will continue to prioritise the work that we do in relation to modern slavery and to supporting the victims of this vile trade.
I think that it's our generation's responsibility to really step up to the cause and promote equality, promote freedom.
Freedom to me is being able to express yourself freely
without being criticized or judged by other people.
Freedom is important for the evolution of human race.
For me, freedom is the ability to pursue life in the way that you choose.
I believe that freedom is being able to express what you think and what you feel openly without interfering.
Freedom means you have the right to make your own decision.
Freedom is being you without anyone's permission.
Freedom to us means being allowed to play football.
So you just heard those passionate kids telling the world what freedom means to them. And at the University of Dayton in Ohio, students used a unique idea to teach a pretty interesting lesson on My Freedom Day. A huge board game showed what life is like for a victim of human trafficking. And joining us now are two people who actually hosted that event. Tony Talbot, Director of Abolition Ohio, and Bradley Petrella, a student at the University of Dayton, Ohio. So Tony, let me begin with you. So this is all about active learning. It's a pretty cool idea. You had a board game to show what life is like for a victim of human trafficking. Just explain to us, why did you think this was the most effective way to send a message to the kids about the horrors of human trafficking?
Oh, okay, Zane. I guess really what it is we're trying to get kids involved, and we're trying to really let them see in their own experiences what this thing's like, and it gets them up out of their seats. It gets them up out of just listening to a lecture, and so they can really participate in it, and active learning is the real key.
Yeah, so how did it work? How did the board game work?
Great. Well, you have folks come in, they want to play. We have large squares set up on the floor like it is a big board game. The people themselves become the pieces on the board game. There's these large dice, and the idea is to try to see what it's like to actually live on the streets for a victim of human trafficking, a victim of sex trafficking. So they roll the dice, they move forward, and they can land on a square that either has good things or bad things that can happen to them. They start out with a certain number of resource cards, 4 resource cards, and then if they land on a bad square, it could be something, a student will step up and say, stop, you were just arrested for prostitution, you have to spend the night in jail, you lose a resource card. or stop you're diagnosed with an untreated STI or STD, lose a resource card. Or they could land on something good. It all depends on the roll of the dice. Good things are, it's a cold night and a good Samaritan sees you shivering, so they offer you a coat. Or someone refers you to services and you get, you know, a warm bed and hot meal for the night.
Right, so it's all about the fact that, listen, life is a game of chance. Anybody could be vulnerable to human trafficking, particularly young people. So, Bradley, let me bring you in, because I'm just curious how your involvement in trying to end modern-day slavery changed your perspective, because you and I were talking, and it is true that young people are uniquely positioned to actually make a difference. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, thank you. I just believe that the younger you're able to learn about it, the more time you have to work on this issue. I think a lot of older generation might be more skeptical with modern day forms of slavery that are often, you know, seen as a hidden crime embedded in our systems, the supply chains around the world, or commercial sex. So there might be that cynicism, but when I learn about it at a young age, you know, I still have a sense of hope and a vision, and the idea that if we work together, this younger generation, we have a whole life ahead of us to really make an impact on this problem, hopefully end slavery.
So speaking of having your whole life ahead of you, beyond just today and beyond just yesterday, how else, going forward in your future, how else do you hope to make a difference on this issue?
That's a great question. I've been very passionate about human trafficking as the president of New Abolitionist Movement Student Organization at the University of Dayton. But I see human trafficking connected to a lot of other global issues as well, poverty, inequality. And so I'm concerned about all of these. And so whether or not after college I do something directly in my career, I'll be attuned to human trafficking. I'll be able to be aware of the signs and know that a lot of these issues come into play together. And knowing that whatever I do, I could help prevent and stop human trafficking. In the last year, I've seen examples in the United States where a flight attendant and an Uber driver helped rescue a victim of trafficking. So something unexpected, but no matter what, there'll be an avenue to help.
Yeah, it's hugely important to raise awareness because, of course, the more you know, the more you can do. All right, Bradley and Tony, thank you so much for taking part in My Freedom Day. Loved having your voices on the show. Appreciate that. Thank you both so much. All right, still to come here, a seed planted in Georgia may someday help a victim of human trafficking. We'll find out how from one of the students who picked up a shovel on My Freedom Day. That story next.
To me, freedom means having the right to do what you want with the means that you have without hurting other people.
In 2011, we at EDOF planted a seed with the aim of creating an ever-expanding forest. We nurtured that seed and helped it grow. Inspired by the ethics of giving, our seed grew into a strong tree. Branches emerged with similar aims of compassion, humanitarianism, and love. We spread our seeds to help even more people, as blessed is the influence of one true loving human soul on another. In Syria, our aim is to provide relief to 12 million in need, 3.8 million refugees, about half of whom are children. We use our reach to raise awareness of the 30 million slaves in the world today, of the thousands of children trafficked through Europe and the US. We continue to grow into cutting-edge medical research. Our mission, make a difference to people's health, save lives, and support NGOs that plant more seeds.
A force in the Los Angeles culinary scene, she is one of the most celebrated chefs in America. This month, we're in Singapore with the award-winning Nancy Silverton as she opens up about her journey.
I knew how to be a pastry cook, but I didn't know how to be a mom.
Her relationship with food.
Boys, yeah, they break down, but cheese, it's there forever.
And why she was reluctant to join the hit Netflix show, Chef's Table.
I don't even know why they picked me.
Talk Asia, Thursday on CNN.
Voila.
asked us to go. Not friends, not family.
Hello.
No one asked us to go. Into the storm, into the chaos, into the heartbreak. It's the story that drives us forward.
Welcome.
It's the story that needs to be heard.
Here we have them.
It's the story that needs to be told. This is why we go.
We have breaking news out of Greece. Live is CNN's senior international correspondent, Nima Elbag.
Well, for the Syrians and their families who miss.
Freedom to me is when I have the opportunity to do what I like, just like reading.
Oh, it always touches my heart when I see those kids saying what freedom means to them. Welcome back to CNN special coverage of My Freedom Day. High schoolers in Georgia had one idea for how to make that opportunity for others on My Freedom Day. Students in the city of East Point planted a garden to help victims of human trafficking. Angel Upshaw was one of those volunteers. She joins us live now, along with East Point Council member Stephanie Gordon. So, guys, thank you so much for being with us. When I read about the story, I loved it because, you know, we've been hearing from people all around the world who are doing different things from My Freedom Day, and the idea of planting a garden was so unique. It's called the Garden of Hope. Just tell us how you came up with this idea and why you think it's an effective way to help victims.
We came up with the Garden of Hope only because of the fact that in that situation, hope is a detrimental element you have to have, because you either have hope that the victim is still alive or hope that they will reconnect with their families in some way. So we was just like, hope, it has to be the Garden of Hope to help the victims.
And Councilmember, this high school is in East Point.
Yes.
That is very close to the Atlanta International Airport, which is a hub, a gateway for human trafficking because it is the largest airport in the world.
Yes.
So just talk to us about that.
Well, being a local elected official, I felt that it was incumbent upon me to raise awareness along with this initiative because of that very fact. We do know that Atlanta ranks among the top 14 hubs in the country. So in doing so, raising awareness within our local communities is imperative because we definitely want to make sure that our students are aware of the predatory activity involving trafficking right here in our own backyards.
So as the students in this high school in East Point plant a garden of hope, which is a very beautiful thing, it's also important to get teachers on board as well, so that teachers, while they're in school, know exactly what signs to look for to see if a child is particularly at risk or vulnerable to human trafficking.
Absolutely. More to that, a lot of the victims that are under the, I would say, under the captivity of their predators actually send those students to school to recruit more victims. So it is imperative also that teachers are aware of the behavior that might change in students or missing days of school, increased absenteeism, as well as grades, a reduction or lowering of their scholastic ability.
So Angel, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 16.
Okay, so when you hear a council member say all of this, you know, that human traffickers might send victims to high schools to recruit their friends, I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, how has it changed your perspective as a teenager?
It's kind of frightened me, but also made me more aware. When I got older, I was just more thinking of, oh, okay, I'm getting older, I'm getting on my own, let's go have fun. But now I understand what my parents mean when they say it's safe. You need to be safe. To know that I live right around from Hartsfield is like, it just makes you more aware and cautious of what things to look for and to look for things in my fellow classmates.
And how has it been between you and your classmates in terms of raising awareness, not just in terms of planting this garden, but raising awareness beyond that?
Our main thing is just to educate. We're trying to educate ourselves and educate each other about this, about the severity of this epidemic. So as long as we do our research, we try to find out different ways and what common threads are going through each case, and we're just trying to educate everybody.
Councilwoman, what does freedom mean to you? It's a question we've been asking everybody. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, well, what freedom means to me in terms of human trafficking is the right to be safe. And every young person, every child should have that right. And because that is not happening, we clearly see this is, again, as Angel said, an epidemic, then we must stand in the gap. The community must stand in the gap because every child deserves the right to be safe and to feel protected.
All right, Angel Upshaw, Councilwoman Stephanie Gordon. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your perspective. Appreciate the hard work you're doing on this issue.
Thank you.
All right, let's zip across the world to Nigeria. Students near Lagos embarked on an ambitious plan to raise awareness. Kids at the Queensland Academy started a project that's set to stretch well past My Freedom Day. They're planning a huge mural. And as you can see here, they spent part of the day drawing up plans. It looks like some of those drawings express their idea of what it means to be enslaved and what it means to be free. Art for freedom and a silent plea to end modern-day slavery. Ahead, how change is possible with the help of children. That story, next.
F stands for following your dreams.
R for the reason to keep on fighting for what is right.
E for equality between nations and genders.
E for empowering people to live the life they choose.
D for the diamond that shines within us all.
O for opinion, never give what you're thinking.
M stands for my ability to make my own choices.
In 2011, we at EDOF planted a seed with the aim of creating an ever-expanding forest. We nurtured that seed and helped it grow. Inspired by the ethics of giving, our seed grew into a strong tree. Branches emerged with similar aims of compassion, humanitarianism, and love. We spread our seeds to help even more people, as blessed is the influence of one true loving human soul on another. In Syria, our aim is to provide relief to 12 million in need, 3.8 million refugees, about half of whom are children. We use our reach to raise awareness of the 30 million slaves in the world today, of the thousands of children trafficked through Europe and the US. We continue to grow into cutting-edge medical research. Our mission, make a difference to people's health, save lives, and support NGOs that plant more seeds.
All new African Voices. This week, indulge your taste buds with the culinary creations from some of Africa's biggest chefs.
I think what makes my food stand out is because it has heart. It dares to be different.
African Voices, Sunday on CNN, in association with Glow.
CNN Money, your new destination for business news. On TV, online, on the go.
To me, freedom is when every child, irrespective of gender, has access to quality education and safe life.
That beautiful little girl there talking about freedom, meaning education. And we saw so many creative, unique ways to celebrate on My Freedom Day. You just saw an example of one of them. Young people really approach this problem with so much passion and so much enthusiasm, from Hong Kong to Bangalore, India, from Lagos, Nigeria, to here in Atlanta, Georgia. Children are key to fighting modern-day slavery. And I talked with the man who started the CNN Freedom Project, Executive Vice President and Managing Director of CNN International, Tony Maddox. So, Tony, what was it about this issue that made you say, listen, with all the reach I have to do something about this?
Well, I thought it was important that we had a project that CNN could do uniquely well, and given the range of our international resources, it was clearly a story which was truly international and global in its scope. But also on a personal level, I was deeply moved by the stories that I read, and frankly rather surprised and shocked at myself at how naive I was about the sheer scale of the problem. And it occurred to me that many other people would be like me, thinking, well, slavery is largely a historic thing. Of course, there'll be some individual examples of human trafficking, but all on a relatively small scale. But, you know, you read the statistics of, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 million people involved. No one can really say for sure, but all definitive estimates seem to be at least 20 million, maybe as many as 40 million. That's an extraordinary number. And I just thought, well, we can use the resources of CNN to highlight that. And when I started to speak to people within CNN International and within the CNN News Group about this project, it was clear that there was widespread enthusiasm. It got real momentum very, very quickly. And from then on, really, I wouldn't so much describe myself as the leader of this project as more the cheerleader, because the staff have really driven this forward.
What has been the biggest challenge, though, with getting something like this off the ground?
Well, I think to start with, it was getting our heads across the scale of the problem. And then the problem is so big, you've then got to target which bits you want to focus on. You don't want to just be doing random pieces. So we've tried as best we can to have certain key themes that we've worked through. We've targeted certain types of stories. We've tried to follow up on certain stories. We want to go to stories where we think we can actually make an impact. So across our area, it's been a multiple stage process, really. We've been trying to educate the audience, and then as people have become more aware, we've then tried to bring in more and more detail and to develop out certain aspects of the human trafficking problem. Now, I want to emphasize here, you know, we've done a good job, I think, in helping to draw attention to this, but we were by no means the first onto this. We entered an area where there were a lot of groups who've been working really hard for a long time. And I think what we were able to do at CNN International was to be a centre where all of those efforts could converge. And we work very, very closely with those organisations and continue to do so that we're highlighting their efforts, their expertise, and their breakthroughs, as well as the work that we're doing for ourselves. This is a big team effort to fight human trafficking.
So we've highlighted the work of various organizations. We've worked to raise awareness, educate people. But what is the end goal here? What is, you know, your dream for the project 10, 20 years from now?
Well, the dream would be that we don't do this sort of thing anymore. Now, I'm not naive enough to believe that something that is as profitable as human trafficking, I'm not naive enough to believe that something that is as profitable as exploiting bonded labour will go away quickly or go away just because CNN does some programmes on it. But you can make a difference. There is a CNN effect. Once CNN talks about something or highlights something, everything around that story can change. We've seen this. We've done stories on human trafficking, we've done stories on human exploitation, on child labour, and those things have stopped. We've seen progress in areas like the cocoa industry because of our efforts there, and because of the efforts of others as well. So I want to see continued successes. This effort can never stop while anybody is being held as a slave. It is absolutely against everything we stand for as human beings that should happen in our society today.
Why do you think young people are uniquely positioned to actually speak out on this issue?
Well, number one, I don't think they get as cynical as older people. I think when they see things which just strike them as, you know, wicked, they're not afraid to use simple language, evil. Right. You know, they want to take action against it, and good luck to them. I think there's a large amount of empathy now in our interconnected world. I think kids in London, Paris, you know, Abu Dhabi, Hong Kong feel the same way about other kids. They don't view them as being very different or odd. They just view them as being other kids who live in different places. We're all globally connected. And the children in other parts of the world are exploited in this way. I think children feel very vividly. I also think it's a great project for teachers to have something which encapsulates so many areas of relevant study for kids. And teachers will be the first to say, if you want to sort of do a big project with kids, they've got to be engaged in that. It's got to be something that they've bought into. I think it's tremendously encouraging, My Freedom Day, which again, you know, we can only set these ideas up. It's the kids who take them up and pick them up and run with them. We've just been enormously impressed with that. If you've been involved in things like that when you were a kid, these things will stay with you for a long time. I hope all these people remain energised and focused on this campaign throughout their lives.
That was the man who started the CNN Freedom Project, Executive Vice President of CNN International, Tony Maddox. Well, My Freedom Day may be over for 2017, but the fight against human trafficking continues. The CNN Freedom Project will keep on shining a light on this global tragedy that is happening right now. You can follow our work at a special section of our website. Just go to cnn.com/freedom. I'm Zain Asher. Thank you so much for being with us.
I can't keep quiet.
In 2011, we at EDOF planted a seed with the aim of creating an ever-expanding forest. We nurtured that seed and helped it grow. Inspired by the ethics of giving, our seed grew into a strong tree. Branches emerged with similar aims of compassion, humanitarianism, and love. We spread our seeds to help even more people, as blessed is the influence of one true loving human soul on another. In Syria, our aim is to provide relief to 12 million in need, 3.8 million refugees, about half of whom are children. We use our reach to raise awareness of the 30 million slaves in the world today, of the thousands of children trafficked through Europe and the US. We continue to grow into cutting-edge medical research. Our mission, make a difference to people's health, save lives, and support NGOs that plant more seeds.